Hey everybody, it's Exterminate here, and for my first microcast with a guest, Zack, Ethan is doing something I wish he could stay and talk with us, but he can't. So Zack will have to do. I can't. Stop mean. This is I'd be very nice.
I'm glad I'm enough.
So, in this microcast, we're just going to be talking about perks because I don't feel like that's enough information to speak of for a full 30 minutes. If it is, I will release this as a third podcast without Ethan. But, so we're just going to go ahead and get into it. We're just going to say a little bit about the perks, what we like, what we don't like, and whether or not we would actually use them. So first off, Afterburner.
Okay, so this perk, I think it's pretty lame in general, because really, your thrusters just aren't that useful in general. Like, for the things you use them for, you're not going to want to use them like multiple times in a row. Like, you use it once to jump into a building, and then you don't need it. You're not going to need it until it recharges again anyway. So overall, it's just, it's fine in some maps, I would say.
Well, all the rank 1, of all the rank 1s, Afterburner, Blind Eye, and Sixth Sense, I think that it's the least useful.
True, yeah. I think Blind Eye and Sixth Sense are definitely more useful than Afterburner.
Yeah, so Afterburner, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 3.
Yeah, I think 3 is it.
On larger maps, it can be useful, but Sixth Sense and Blind Eye are just more useful.
Yeah, just almost always you want to choose Blind Eye or Sixth Sense if, you had to choose from those 3. If you're like level 1.
And then, I mean, at level 5 you get Flak Jacket, which is just better than Afterburner. Blind Eye or Sixth Sense is actually kind of comparable.
I'm not sure. I think it depends. For example, like Blind Eye, I think Blind Eye is extremely useful against certain enemies. Like, if you're against players that consistently get things, get the score streaks, then it's pretty good. Like, I think it's kind of like the Black Hat, but less all in. You're not going all in on them, getting this great score streak, and that it's more useful just in general. Like, someone might get a lightning storm or a hellstorm or whatever, and that's not gonna win the game. So your Blind Eye helps you. Whereas if the enemy team gets like the mothership, sure you can like hat that, but like how useful is that really? Because they got 18 kills. So yeah. I think Blind Eye's it's pretty good. Out of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 5, 6 in that ballpark.
Yeah. I'd give it a 4 to 5, but it can be much higher than that, depending on what type of class you're trying to go for.
True. It can also be really low if you're playing against really bad people.
Definitely. If you're playing against really bad people, it's useless.
If the enemy team never gets any aerial score streaks, then it's a 1.
Exactly. It's a 0 because you don't use it. You have absolutely no reason to use it and nothing to gain.
True.
Whereas even if you're level 1, Sixth Sense, that's so much better, especially against noobs.
Yeah, Sixth Sense is something. It's brand new to Black Ops 3. I really like the concept of this. I think it's more useful for like short range classes, like most SMGs and shotguns. I mean, you probably could put it on some assault rifles classes. I probably wouldn't, but I think
Sixth Sense is something that I would probably take on my RK5 class because of how short range that weapon actually is, even with long barrel.
Yeah, it's something like a pistol also, if you're gonna go with a pistol class.
Pistol, SMG, and shotgun are what you would actually use that for. If you're using a sniper rifle, it can be useful just to alert you to anybody's presence in your building.
Yeah, generally I'd say Ghost is probably well, not Ghost on Sniper. I'd say probably like Blind Eye, or maybe not even a tier 1 perk. Perk 1 if you're gonna go in with class. It's fine. Out of 10, I'd probably rate it a 7 or an 8.
I'd give it a solid 7.
Because it's gonna be useful, and you're gonna get use out of it almost always in like every game you play.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, even LEA uses it.
That means something.
Exactly. Of all of the rank 1s, I think that Sixth Sense is the best, depending on what class you're using.
I'd agree, almost always. Unless, like, you just prestiged and you're against, like, 4 prestige masters, then you probably might want to take Blind Eye.
Yeah. Especially since there are a lot more aerial kill streaks than there were in previous games.
Yeah, there are a lot, so... Though it is worth noting that Blind Eye does not protect you from UAV and Hater.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, if you remember Blind Eye from MW3, VAD protected you from like the Little Bird, the attack helicopter, and
Hellstorm just being seen by it too.
yeah, I mean they can still see your movement, but they can't actually see a dot appear.
Yeah, which I mean that when I use Hellstorm in W3, I was always looking for the dot. So every once in a while you
Yeah,
can see a gray guy moving around, but yeah.
but I mean then it's also a lot harder to hit him, and it's so much easier to lose track of where he actually is.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah.
If you shift your gaze for a moment, he could potentially disappear or die.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely don't want
With the
to
red dots, you can tell if they die a lot easier.
definitely.
So Flak Jacket, not much to say for Flak Jacket. Objective-based game modes, as they even say on the BlackOps3.com, that's the only reason I would actually use it.
Yeah, domination, maybe hardpoint. I maybe search and destroy. I wouldn't take him to search and destroy though. So basically, domination or hardpoint, where I would suggest it.
Domination I would definitely take because Domination is a lot more intense than Hardpoint.
And people always, take double lethal, double tactical. Or that would
Yeah,
in domination is where you would see the double lethal and double tactical. So
yeah, I know that when I play Domination with you guys especially, I load up on all that. I get an RPG. I go full anti-camper class because they all going to be camping on A or C.
yeah, yeah. And also, flat jacket is also useful against RCXD, which is a very popular cheat perk.
Especially
get all the time.
especially in objective-based game modes.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in
and
things like
and
that.
once like Hardpoint. Sorry to interrupt you there. And once like Hardpoint and Nuketown, where on Nuketown, the Hardpoint can be the entire lower level of a building. So you might see them before they see you, and they need to have a little bit of reaction time on that because they need to be able to shoot you as well. And you move a lot faster than they can actually look.
True.
So Flak Jacket, on a scale of 1 to 10, depending on what you're actually using it for, I give it, 5 to 6.
Yeah, I'd say 7, probably 7 on like Dominion, Dominion, excuse me, Dominations, maybe 7 or 8 on Domination, but on almost every other game mode, like a 5 or a 6.
Yeah. Overclock. This one, it's unlocked at rank 20. I think that it's kind of close to useless
Yeah, I think it's you practically never want this.
Unless you're going Purifier.
I'd say every other tier 1 perk is better than this. I'd say it's the worst tier 1
Yeah.
perk.
I think it's probably the worst tier 1 perk.
Though maybe you might want it if you're trying to get hero gear on a hero
Yeah.
and you want to get those kills with a specialist weapon. That's the only situation where I'd ever see anyone taking this.
Or maybe if you're trying to get a gameplay for YouTube where you're trying to get really high score streaks, you match Overclock with the EXP booster specialist. I don't remember what it was called.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure everybody watching this knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the one from Seraph.
Yeah, I have no idea what that one's called.
Seraph's specialist ability.
Yeah, Seraph's specialist non-lethal ability.
Yeah.
Because the Annihilator is pretty good.
Yeah. So, in general, at 1 out of 10, I would rate Overclock at a 1.
I'd give it a 2 to 3, but an 8 if you're trying to get high score streak gameplay.
Yeah, in that one situation.
In that one situation specifically for YouTube.
In all others, any other, you do better with any other perk.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Ghost. I'd probably give that one a 9. It's just.
This is definitely my favorite. Definitely.
Yeah.
If I'm taking a blue perk, and sometimes for classes to save on points, I don't. I would take Ghost almost every time. UAV is, I would say, the most popular score streak due to how cheap it is and just it's so useful. And I really like it. Though it is important to note that Ghost only works when you're moving. So if you're a sniper and you like just sitting still, or maybe you're like with an LMG and you're trying to camp, maybe an objective game mode, you probably don't want to take it. But for any assault rifle, SMG, shotgun, that type of class, I would 100% take this every time.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't usually take perk 1. Instead, I usually try to take a tactical.
Yeah.
Or a lethal trip mine,
Because, perk 1, I think, is... With the exception of Ghost, I think it's probably the weakest in terms of its perks, but Ghost is so good.
I think even with Ghost, it's the weakest, but Ghost definitely makes it an actual usable set.
Yeah, at level 38, you want to put this on every class.
Yeah.
Unless you're a sniper.
Or unless you're like me, who will put 5 attachments on my gun.
Well,
Quick draw, the stock, the grip, for reflex, fast mags, extended mag. Maybe instead of quick draw, put it on long barrel. You know,
well, I mean, really tactile gun. I would prefer Ghost to that, but
yeah,
customizable.
exactly. That's what I love about this game.
True.
It it has so much option for customization on it.
Yeah, I do like the whole pick 10 system.
Yeah,
Like the previous games, like Modern Warfare, like MW3, you had to take a lethal and you had to take a tactical. And I think that's sad because in the Black Ops games, I never take lethal or tactical unless I'm playing an objective based game mode. Like if
yeah.
I just load into a TDM, I don't. I just prefer to save on points, so I don't really take
I
lethal.
usually don't unless I'm trying to go with like an LMG, in which case I usually take a trip mine.
Yeah, you can use it. That's to each their own style.
Yeah. My style is usually run and gun unless I'm sitting with an LMG and infection. And in infection, if I pull out the LMG, then I'm mad because I'm not a big LMG user. I love LMGs, but I don't use them very much for obvious reasons. But I pull them out with FMJ and the Gorgon with FMJ and rapid fire. I pull that out on infection.
Oh wow, it's a really good way to deal with the people in the buildings.
Exactly, and if you ever unmute everybody, you can hear them screaming at the top of their lungs, like "I hate you, noob." Um, so then we move on to perk number 2.
Ah,
So first of all, we have the fast hands. I take this all the time,
yeah,
definitely.
I think this is one of my favorites from perk two. It's just so useful. The swapping between primary and secondary isn't terribly useful. Maybe if you're using like a pistol class or you want to use
Yeah,
overkill or something. But the fact that aim down sight slightly faster after sprinting, that is just it's so useful in gunfights like quick draw grip. Like the
yeah,
whole point you take this is to win the gunfights against the SMGs or the assault rifles.
exactly,
Because whoever has their gun up first, whoever fires first, generally wins because of the flinch. Since there's no toughness in this game,
exactly. I miss that.
it was stupid.
It was
Toughness in Black
stupidly
Ops 2.
powerful.
There's
But
like
every
yeah,
but everybody used it, so it balanced it out. You know.
there basically wasn't flinch in that game because everyone took toughness.
Yeah. Ante up. Oh wait a minute. Fast hands. Out of 10.
I'd say not. Probably 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Because some classes it doesn't matter too much, but in general it's very solid.
If you're using a class like an SMG class, 5 to 6. If you're using it on class with like an LMG, this thing is priceless. So 10, depending on what class you're actually using.
Yeah, I'd say it fluctuates a lot, but you're never sad to have this perk. It's
Yeah.
always useful.
It's not like Afterburner.
Or blind eye when they have no score streaks.
Exactly. I've played those games before, and it kind of saddens me that happens. Ante up.
Gives a small starting bonus to your score streak meter when you spawn. There's not a lot to be said. It's I don't really like it. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of lame. It doesn't
Fast,
provide a
fast
lot.
hands is better.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's not
It's
that
meh.
good. And 1 to 10, I maybe a 3 or a 4. I mean, I guess it's always gonna get that value. It's always gonna be useful. But the fact of the matter is the usefulness that it's always gonna be useful, but it's not very useful.
Yeah.
It always gives you a little bit.
I'd rate it the exact same as you.
Yeah.
Hardwired is interesting.
Yeah. I think it's very similar to Blind Eye. It's that type of thing. Though
It
maybe
is.
maybe it's better to compare it to Flak Jacket
Yeah.
because it's again you're really gonna want to take this similarly to Flak Jacket on objective based game mode where people actually use flashbangs and concussions and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think the best part about this is that it makes you immune to counter UAVs. So
Yeah.
like if you're running something like a UAV and a hater or whatever, then you might want to take this just for yourself so that you always have the vision. But
Yeah.
I'm not that big of a fan of it, though on objective based game modes it could be very useful.
I could live without, but it is something to think about if you're going into a game of domination.
Yes. Out of 1 to 10, if you're not playing a domination game mode, I'd say maybe a 4 because it's every once in a while someone might use a lava concussion grenade at you or something. If you
Yeah.
are playing something like domination, I'd say it moves up to a 5 or a 6.
I'd put it at a 4 as well, but if you're doing a domination, I say it only moves up to a 5. I don't think it would ever be good enough to be a 6, unless you're combining it with Flak Jacket.
Okay, yes, that's a fair point.
If you combine the two, then it gets pretty tanky.
Especially if you're on something like an LMG.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's a very strong class.
Now, Tracker. Tracker is something I used with my classes for a long time until I found out that Cold Blooded was much better.
I think for Tracker, I feel like Tracker's just a worse Sixth Sense in most situations.
Kind of. You actually get to see which direction your enemy was moving.
Yeah.
So if they were running away from you, you can kind of tell where they ran from, and you can try to intercept them. But when are you actually going to do that if it's not like a 2v2?
Yeah, and the fact of the matter, it's not. It's almost worthless. Like 90% of the time, it'll just be completely worthless in a straight up gunfight where you're shooting another person because it doesn't really matter, where they're moving. You can generally see them. So,
Yeah.
As far as the combat bonus goes, it's just not that useful at all. And I don't know. I think knowing where your opponent went, like where an enemy went, isn't that useful. I think one of the only like a useful thing about it is that like you suddenly boost jump over a wall into a building or whatever, and you didn't know anyone was in there, but you see like a trail of footprints disappearing. You know someone was in there and that now they're running away. So that can be kind of useful. But
Yeah.
overall, I'm not a fan.
It kind of depends on the map.
That's true, though.
I think the map where it's most English. The map where it's most useful is probably Stronghold, but it can also be useful in Hunted and Havoc. Aside from that, I don't think it's very good.
Yeah, I'd say in 1 to 10, something like a 3, around that area. Maybe a 2, maybe a 4, 3 to 4.
To be quite honest, I'd rate it a lot higher than that at a 5.
Okay.
Just because if you're running and gunning, it's nice to know whether or not to go in that direction.
Sure. Yeah, that can be useful.
So, like on evac, if somebody's running in a certain direction, I can kind of predict where they're going to go based on. Since I usually have a UAV up, I can kind of predict where they're going to go in terms of where my teammates are. And even if I don't have a UAV up, I can kind of predict where their teammates might be and whether or not they're trying to run back to their teammates. If they are and I'm feeling confident, I know to try to follow them. But if I'm running low on ammo, which is something that does sometimes happen, I know to not go in that direction.
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
it does have its uses overall compared to the other compared to something like fast hands though. I would almost never
yeah.
take it over that. Maybe if you want to take 2 perk 2s for some reason, then maybe you could consider it. But definitely not over something like fast hands, I would say.
If I was going to take 2 perk 2s, I would either go with like fast hands and cold blooded or fast hands and scavenger.
Yeah, that's what I do too. Yeah.
Now, cold blooded and scavenger might be what I would prefer to do, especially if I have quick draw grip.
Cold blooded. I think it's extremely similar to blind eye. Like they're basically the 2 sides of the coin.
Exactly.
Blind
So many neat expressions today.
Anything for you. So cold-blooded. If we think about how many AI-controlled ground-based score streaks there are, there's things like the GI unit, which you basically don't factor that in when you're considering it because it's so rare. And if they get to a score streak that high, that expensive, then they generally win anyway. So there's things like the GI unit. There's the Cerberus, which I think is the most useful thing. What you would want cold-blooded around, something like the Cerberus. There's
I would want it around the Cerberus, but again, that's a 4-digit score streak. 4-digit score streaks are very rare.
Yeah.
So it's not worth taking a perk specifically for that.
True, but there's also the sentry turret, which is the hardened sentry. That it does prevent you from being seen by that, which it can be useful in some situations.
You can't move the sentry as easily as you would move yourself, and you can't move it as often as you would move yourself.
Yeah, overall, I would say cold-blooded is worse than not blind eye. But I mean, I think they kind of share the same space, and it's not a very useful space.
Yeah,
So, out of 10, 1 to 10 on cold blooded.
I I
Uh,
think um you can go ahead and rate it.
uh, I don't know, maybe a 3 because it's not that useful because there's not a lot of ground based score streaks that you'll run into that often that where it matters that you won't be seeing that.
I don't think it's as utilitarian as Blind Eye,
Mhm.
but I think it still holds ground as being a useful perk.
Mm.
It's just nowhere near the most useful of the green perks.
True, true. Yeah, there are
Out
many.
of 10, out of 10 I might give it a 5.
I think that's kind of fairly generous, but there are some situations where you'd want it.
Exactly. It's situational utilitarian, as I like to call certain things, like the Semtex.
True.
Um,
So that's a fairly broader. I think the Semtex because the Semtex will almost always be useful. Whereas if they don't
yeah.
they don't set out as hardened sentry, they don't set out as Cerberus. Cold blooded is actually doing nothing.
I mean, Cold Blooded might be closer to a 4, but still, you can't complain about it.
True, true.
Unlike Afterburner
You can always complain or overclock.
or Overclock. Overclock is certainly better than Afterburner, though.
Sometimes
Sometimes it depends on how big the map is.
I think they're both bad. So
They're both definitely bad. Scavenger.
yes, it's good if you're doing well. If you're
It's
good at
good
the
if you're
game,
doing
it's a
well.
good perk. If you don't usually kill a lot of people, like if you die before you run out of run out of ammo in your magazine,
If you run out of Amazine,
it's the ammo magazine.
I like that. I should use that.
If you run out of ammo in your magazine, if you die before that, then
Yeah.
who cares that you have more ammo? 'Cause it doesn't matter. So I don't know. Maybe on guns with like a super high rate of fire or like low.
Or secondaries, like the RK5, where you only get like 2 magazines.
Yeah, if you wanted to, for some reason to make a pistol class,
For some, or like the L-Car. The L-Car is one of the most useful guns with Scavenger.
you need to have the L card though.
Yeah, well, the Scavenger is rank 44, and I think the L-Car is like 42 or something.
True. I also think Vesper would be one of the Vesper and the VMP. I think would be the two best
Yes.
SMGs for it because they go through magazines so fast.
Yeah. Oh, and then you have that gun for Black Ops 1 where you can tech it like halfway through the animation, and you can
Yes,
put fast mags on it.
it's
Like,
ridiculous.
I remember I got 2 magazines off on a guy who was reloading his LMG magazine. He emptied the entire magazine. He had terrible aim, but I had emptied 2 magazines and fully reloaded them both by the time he was even close to emptying his mag.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad you can't tech many reloads now.
I know that's something that I do kind of
I
miss.
it kind
But
of takes away the skill, I think, but whatever.
well, it depends on what you consider skill.
True. Yeah.
And now perk 3, Gung Ho, 10 out of 10.
I think this is if you're using a like a more of a short range class like SMGs, shotguns, maybe sometimes an assault rifle, it's extremely useful. Like I take this on every single SMG class.
Yes,
I think it's
I never even think of taking anything else.
yeah, it's just so good.
Now,
It's
tactical mask. Yeah, that's the only thing I would think about replacing Gung Ho with on objective-based game modes.
maybe I don't know.
Maybe.
I think Gung Ho is just always good. It's just and reloading while sprinting that alone is good. But then when you have all the other stuff in it, it's really good. I think.
Yeah, out of 10, definitely a 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that. I would say Gung Ho and Fast Hands are the two perks that if I'm using an SMG or maybe an assault rifle class, are the two perks that I would just hands down always pick regardless, not even looking about my other perks, my attachments. I
Yeah.
just always take those two because they're just that good.
Yeah. Blast suppressor. That's cringeworthy.
I think it certainly has its uses. It, um, it's
Well,
it's useful. I think if you're using a more of like a running gun, more like maybe I think shotguns especially would be the type of class where you would take this, where you definitely don't want them to know that you're around because shotguns, obviously, you need to get very close in order
now
to kill people.
what happens when you have Sixth Sense?
They can still see that.
Exactly. So, and a lot of people will have Sixth Sense.
I don't know. I Sixth Sense, it's kind of common. It's not as common as some of the others. For most people just take Ghost for blue perk, or maybe sometimes Black Jacket or Blind Eye.
But, Ghost is rank 38, and for people who have just prestiged, Sixth Sense is a very appealing perk.
Yeah, I mean there are some situations like that where that isn't that useful, but Blast Suppressor is also useful. Not just when you're like really close to somebody, but just like when you're going across the map, the enemy team can't like see you on the mini map. Oh, there's a guy over there, so let's try to guess where he's going. With this, they
That's
just don't
true.
even have a clue. So it
That,
is kind of worthless when the opposing team gets a UAV.
yeah. And I mean,
Somewhat.
noting how low a score streak that is, I think that happens almost every single game, and very usually like 3 up on each team during each game, really.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think Blast Suppressor is good for stealth things. I don't think it's as good as it was in Advanced Warfare. I think it was one of the
Yeah.
best perks in Advanced Warfare, but in Black Ops 3, it's fine. I mean, it's kind of always useful, but things like Gung Ho just outclass it. I'd rate it probably a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. I probably rated it a 4. And then awareness. Like, I don't even understand why you would take awareness.
Um, well, I don't.
S-
I usually don't play with headphones,
Yeah.
so I cannot speak one way. Having never tried this. I have tried it, just trying to listen through the TV sound, and it's not that useful. So I think it gets much better when you have headphones, where like the direction and such, where you can hear
Yeah.
sound actually matters.
I mean, on the blackops2.com, it it literally said only works really with headphones
Yeah,
for
yeah.
awareness.
I do think that you really need headphones to get the whole benefit out of this perk. So I have seen a lot of people take it. So I don't know. Maybe that means it's good. maybe people just like to take it. So
Yeah.
I can't really rate this. I haven't really tried it.
Now, why you would ever take that over gung ho, I don't understand.
Yeah, maybe if you're using like a sniper or something, and you want to know when
M-
people are around you. I don't know.
Maybe. Actually, that's true. On a sniper class, you're not really going to have a use for gung ho.
Firing while you're sprinting.
Yeah, if you can no scope while doing that, you got skill.
Or aimbot.
Or aimbot, that's also a very likely possibility. Out of 10,
I can't. I don't know. I can't really rate this.
you can't rate it because you haven't really used it before, nor can I. If I had to guess, I'd put it somewhere around a 3, but a 7 if you're using a sniper class.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now down to the last 3, tactical mask.
It's really useful if the opponents have concussions, flashbangs, or shock charges. So
Um,
again, really only useful in like d- um, objective-based
Domination.
game modes, basically just domination. But that is
Yeah.
one of the most popular game modes.
Yeah.
So, I would probably take it on that situation. But like in general, just like if I'm playing like TDM or something like that, I wouldn't really take it because it's not going to give you anything. And Gung Ho is usually better. And if you want to waste 2 points just for this, you don't really. It doesn't feel good to use 2 points on
Yeah.
this when you never get flashbanged.
Now, tactical mask, hardwired, and
Flash jacket.
flak jacket.
Yeah.
When you combine those 3, then you're doing very well.
It's very hard for you to be stopped. Yeah. You basically the only way you die really is through someone just straight up shooting you with bullets.
Or AI score streaks. Really.
True. Then you have to get cold blooded and blind eye.
Yeah, but you can get those both too, or
You can.
even just blind eye.
True. You won't have a lot of attachments on your guns, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using something like the KN, you don't need attachments really, except maybe grip.
Or maybe if you're using like a sniper, because they generally don't really need
Yeah.
attachments like at all.
On that, maybe a grip.
True.
Out of 10, I'd give it a 3 by itself because of how rarely it would actually come in handy. But when combined with all of the other similar perks, it can be 7 to 8.
I'd say if you're not using it like if you're just using it as its own, just judging it by itself as a perk, I'd say 1 or 2, because flashbangs, concussions, and shock charges aren't that common. Even if they are that,
True.
and even if you do run into them, it's not, sometimes this won't matter. Sometimes they won't even hit you with them. But if you use this, I guess in combination with the other perks that you mentioned, or maybe on a objective-based game mode like domination, I don't know, maybe a 4 or 5.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because even then, it's
Uh.
not that common.
Yeah. Last two. Engineer. Yeah. I don't like it.
I think it's interesting and it's unique, but you
In
know,
terms of actual usefulness.
it's not that useful. It's useful. It's useful, kind of like so you don't walk into a shock charge or an explosive mine
Oh, well, you.
because you can see
Yeah.
it.
That you kind of need to put the pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like it. I mean, I think it's kind of interesting, but I would never take it. Though it's nice if you run a care package because if you don't like it, you can just re-roll it or booby trap it. But in
Because
general,
in MW3, there was a perk that had like the all-seeing eye on it. That was very similar to that.
yeah,
Tactician, I think it may have been called. And
yeah, it's yeah,
that one, even if you had Marathon on and you didn't have that, you still need to be able to see where like the claymores are. You need to be able to see that stuff. You can't rely on like a perk to be able to do that for you. That just needs to be something that's wired into your brain.
true. I mean, it does have its uses. I think engineer, but in general, it's just. I mean, maybe it's. I don't know. I say it's generally just worse than something like Gung Ho or even Dead Silence.
Yeah.
Blaster Professor, Tactical Master. It's one. I think it's one of the worst red perks. It's interesting, but it's just not that useful.
So out of 10, I might give it, a 4, maybe.
Yeah, I think 4 is pretty standard for it. I'd rate it at a 4 as well.
Dead Silence. Again, we can't rate this at all because we don't play with headphones.
Well, I do.
Really.
I do sometimes use this, and you don't. I think I could rate it just because you don't need headphones to appreciate the advantage that this gives because
True.
just
Yeah.
I think it's really good on classes where you need stealth. So probably not something like a sniper or an LMG if you're just like camping.
Yeah.
But on something like an SMG, I sometimes do consider this just because I like being able to surprise people and just because in things like SMG versus SMG, it's usually whoever pulls the trigger and hits the opponent first wins. So if they don't
Yeah.
know you're there, that gives you a huge advantage. So I think Dead Silence can be pretty useful, and I think it's probably my second favorite of the perk threes.
Yeah. I can. I can kind of agree with that. But Gung Ho is just better.
Oh yeah, Gung Ho I agree is definitely it's probably the best perk, probably just the best perk.
Yeah.
For some classes of course, but if you in general I'd say it is probably the best perk. Dead Silence, yeah,
Unless you're using a sniper, right? A sniper class,
or an LMG, yes.
or even if you have an LMG, it can be kind of useful.
It could be though. You're usually not going to hit too many people hit firing with LMG. Usually,
Usually, there are some things that you can do about that though,
true.
like aimbot.
Then it usually doesn't matter what gun you use.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
I'll let you go ahead and take us out this time.
uh,
Awkward silence. FTW.
uh,
For the win, boys.
talking about we still haven't finished talking about Dead Silence though. So I was kind of like, what?
All right. In that case, I'll go ahead and take us out. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked, please like, subscribe. If it was something you liked, or if it was something you didn't like, please let me know. That's the only way I can adjust how I do things. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later.